Pew, pew, pew.
Licensed to carry finger guns in all 50 states.
All 50 all 50 states and four territories and district and territories. Oh, good times. Let's see. It actually is episode 110. I double checked just in case this time. I'm not getting myself in trouble again. Matthew.
Patel.
I almost put that as news. Sad.
Yeah, that was in my newsy thing this morning. Not surprising, but sad.
I'm kind of surprised with the number of fans that wasn't enough to carry it, but okay.
It came too close to the making women the main characters of Star Wars thing and all that jazz. That's honestly what sunk it because the story was great.
No,
It's just
I saw the fan base do that, and I was also like, I it was good. I don't care, but yeah, I get it.
it was a better story than the movie, but y'all ain't trying to hear that.
Y'all nerds ain't ready. Not ready for it.
It's like just because I mean, and what bugged me is people were so upset that Ramona was the main character, and the title is literally Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Scott Pilgrim's not there, is the
Right.
title of the show.
That was my favorite part was someone went, "Oh, your lack of Canadian is showing." Because they're like y- they're like Google that with the word Canadian after it. They're like everyone in Canada knew what was up from day one.
Oh.
Oh, oh, the internet doesn't let us have any nice things.
Mm-mm.
So I guess I'll have to do a podcast instead for the
Which
internet.
which is why we're still around because we don't qualify as nice things.
We're oh well, that's our show. That was the equivalent of and let's close in prayer.
Mm. Amen.
Mm, mm. Amen. As I close for the third time today, let me remind you. No, two on the point, two on the nose, even for us. Oh well. Okay. Just kidding.
You
Let's
okay
do a
there,
show
Chief?
about. Yeah, I'm gonna be fine. Maybe sleep's optional. Plenty of time to sleep when I'm dead. All right, let's do a podcast.
Huzzah.
How's Greetings, valued poll listeners, and welcome to episode 110 of the Poll List Podcast, a bi weekly show about comics, pop culture, and faith. My name is Chris Poirier, and with me, as always, is the one, the only Hector, wearing a lion playing a ukulele. Which, once again, if you don't watch the show, you miss out on the small, wonderful things that is Hector's beautiful, wonderful face. And occasionally the random things that pop up behind me in my office. But we are here wrapping up this lovely season as we prepare to take a short break like one does a couple times a year here on the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. How you feeling today, Hector?
It's cold. Um,
Yeah, not gonna lie, it got down to like 30 something the last couple nights here.
I haven't had heat for the last month, and we just got heat yesterday.
Mm.
So it was like well timed, but also not feeling it.
And half of you that if you listen to us from the Great White North, yes, it doesn't do that down here. It's why we're down the southern part of the regions. Is we try not to do that nonsense until January, but here we are doing the comic shows for everyone. Just reviewing some of the lovely notes for today, and yeah, I guess we just need to hop in and do the thing. Yeah, yeah.
What are the things? Tell us the news is.
We're here for comics. So
Oh,
yeah, you know what time it is. Strap yourselves in and prepare yourselves for we've got comic sign.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks on. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me Obi-Wan. Act like you know me, son. Better put the word out. Get ready for
I
the
had to
nerd out.
slurp on my beverage during the transition that time instead of Neon Glow. But yes, on today's episode of the Pull List, we've got a wonderful show for you. We're going to hit the latest news that you need to know, our must pull recommendations from the last 2 weeks, our fave new number one. See what I did there? Foreshadowing, and so much
I
more.
didn't agree to that choice though.
Oh, did you want your other one? I figured we'd share it because we shared it, but
It's
you
cool.
can
It's cool.
fight me. That's
It's cool.
fine.
It's whatever. It's whatever.
It's cool. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. This is the Pull List Podcast.
Pop up cast.
Podcast.
So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna start showing up at people's random comic book shops and record this on
Bam.
Wednesdays. That would actually be really cool.
We need a budget. Or we need to start a Patreon so people can pay Hector and I to go to cool comic shops once a week and do nothing but this show.
I should start recording the show at panels at cons or a show.
Or a show.
Yeah,
And it would be the panel episode.
yeah. I do that with Geek Church, but
Right. See, as we enter year 6 and 7, we'll figure out the even cooler things that we can do.
like actually show up for all of these episodes.
Shh. That's not fair.
Keep to
Only
one
me.
career for an 8 month window.
Oh, hey, bro. It's been a journey. Also, Chris has had 1 hour of sleep in the last 24 hours, so we're doing it. We're doing it live.
You've seen more grams of illegal drugs than you have hours of sleep.
That is actually a 100% accurate statement.
Because he's fighting
Ah,
crime, kids, not taking drugs.
officer safety. Or as we say in the business, it is your local friendly, officer friendly. It's me.
Probably why it's a bad business of PR, because that's terrible.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's pretty straightforward that most people would agree that law enforcement in America in general needs way better PR. And yeah, Oops. But yeah, let's see. I did have some of the newses. One of my newses feels very obvious, but I'm still gonna talk about it because I guess somebody made it super obvious for everyone else. But one actually semi shocked me off the rip. Boom Studios just straight up allowed their Buffy and Firefly licenses to lapse this week. They're done. Including stuff that hasn't come out yet. They're just like, yeah, for business purposes, we decided just to not renew those licenses. Thanks.
Oh, wow.
Right? I said the same thing as I was like kind of buried in some of the news, and I'm like, I for fans of the space, that was a excuse me? Because they were the only place since Dark Horse that really had done much with said licenses. Um,
And they
now,
have done some good things.
yep. Have they done good recently?
No, not so much.
That is a valid discussion for us, and I think Hector and I brought that up. Of occasionally we'd be like, "Hey, we really wanted to like this, but didn't." And maybe that says something, but I don't know if those licenses currently have a future home, and because they let them lapse versus renewing them, they're just kind of chilling. But the flip side is some people have pointed out that this may mean that Boom is also going to liquidate um, a bunch of their hardcover stuff that still exists in actual print, which means if you want to stock up on the better parts of that, be on the lookout because some of that stuff might show up on the cheap here in the
But I
not
mean,
too distant future.
realistically, is this the time to double down on Whedon properties?
Hmm? Mm,
Because didn't
mm.
they already have those licenses when all the Whedon stuff fell through.
Yes.
So I don't blame them. Um, it's not the time to. I mean, I know the Whedon drama was like 3 years ago at this point, but
Man, has it been that long already? I guess that no, that makes sense. It has been that long.
because it was pre Snyder Cut, or
Yes. No, you're right. Because that was an issue during that whole debate.
so yeah.
Well, and Boom didn't go into it. They were just like, yep, we're good. Business purposes moving on. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is their way of not having to talk about it. Um,
But also the fact is, y'all, that's over 20 years old. It's not nostalgia at this point. It's stalking. Like we are officially 22 years past Firefly and approaching 25 years on or 20 years on Serenity. Plus
yeah.
all the years on Buffy. So, you know, it's okay. Let it go. Let it go, guys.
Don't do it.
I'm a brown
Today's
coat. I breed independence or bleed independence. Breed, bleed, whatever. Um, Either way, it's okay. We can let it go. It was a good run. We have fond memories. And Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion's successful career. So let it go. Nobody else though, because everybody else from that show is derelict. Like Gina Torres had a career before that. So
valid.
because she was on Buffy and Angel, and she's married to Lawrence Fishburne. What she got to do? What you doing? You on Suits? Zoe, come on. Nobody's not hiring you. You got royalties from freaking Destiny 2 to carry you till you're 80.
Wow. There's some deep cuts there. Did you catch them all?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'm gonna bump up my next story then because you said the name, the guy.
Mm.
Because Alan Tudyk is everywhere, it feels like recently. Mostly voice acting, but he's doing a lot of other stuff because anytime that his buddy Nathan has a show, he usually tends to show up in some form or fashion. Um, which is solid and is a super fun random walk-on character for the rookie. Um, just how they introduced him in that show still makes me giggle a little bit.
Of all the Nathan Fillion shows I expected your life to adapt, it wasn't that one.
That wasn't the one that anybody had on the thing, and I also have had people constantly be like, "Hey, do you get that a lot?" I'm like, "No, not at all." Like every day. Like, how old are you again? I was like, "Stop it! I'm not divorced. It's not the same." Ugh. But yeah, Alan Tudyk doing, far as I'm concerned, one of my all-time favorite Clayface voiceovers in recent memory. Um, has been pulled into the DC Creature Commandos repertoire, which sits makes me sit there and go, he's not going to change the voice, but the tone of the two shows side by side is very different.
Oh, he's changing the voice.
Is he going to? That's no fun.
No, this is going to be more serial killery, dark and stuff.
Okay,
Um,
then that's actually going to be more fun side by side then, because
yeah,
that'll be even more twisted.
but I don't know if you noticed, but he's not just playing Clayface in Creature Commandos. He's also playing Doctor Phosphorus.
Mm-hmm.
But this does mean that heading into the DCU live action, he'll be voicing Clayface.
Slash motion capping, etc. Because it has been Gunn has said from the beginning, if you are voice, etc., then I'm going to keep continuity in all of the DC media,
Properties.
whether it's animated or live action. That and which honestly is one of my more. I was like, that's golf clap. That Gunn is going to bring a lot of folks side by side that either haven't had the opportunity to live action characters some have voiced for a very long time, and vice versa. But per a conversation I did have at my comic shop today, because someone was talking about some of the DC Commando characters are actually going to show up before the show hits, and I was like, well, yeah, Weasel has got years on all the other ones. And they're like, oh, right. And I'm like, don't forget that one. You already saw him.
Yep.
You're welcome, America. We all got to meet the Weasel well before I think anybody was ready. Still haunts me to this day. And we got some other news, but we'll throw the thing in the middle. Half of comic book internet is like, hey, Ghost Machine and Image, they created a multiverse, didn't they? And I stopped for a minute and went, have 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 y'all been keeping up? Like Ghost Machine literally said from the beginning, the unnamed is a universe and it's a shared universe.
Dude, you need to realize most people don't remember that Ghost Machine or Image exist.
It exists. There's
So,
there's definitely people at Image that went, that's not cool, bro. But
mm,
I guess part of the reason it came up recently is one of the most recent Ghost Machine books that came out actually had a two-page spread that showed all the different properties actually on a two-page spread in kind of looking into the multiverse type thing. And it's like, hey, it's a multiverse. And it's like, it, right. Congratulations. You are keeping up. But the additional commentary that goes there is if you go all the way back to the original creators that came together and formed Image, one of their goals was to actually create a shared universe at some point between all of their properties. It wasn't just a place for them to have independent creator controlled imprints, but they were kind of like, no, we get it. We do comic books, which means some of these things do share a united universe. And I mean, comics, right? Comic books is usually, especially under a common banner, um, share that. But I will just beat the drum again of Ghost Machine is doing something that the 90s would be proud of, but doing it well. Of this is all shared stuff that is fun again. Um, and very approachable. Tons of really cool creators from over the last few decades coming together, plus new folks doing just stories that are weird, interesting, and all the above. That even some of the original creators at Image are like, yeah, that's what we meant. And that's kind of a cool commentary when you look at it. That when you have guys like Silvestri and all them being like, yeah, this, um, that's fun. That's cool to me. And so if you haven't been picking up what we've been talking about on Ghost Machine and the Unnamed, it's like, well, there you go. Like they literally just pounded everyone in the face with the two-page spread in a comic book and went, no, seriously, this. Um, so I love that, but at the same time, because a book I'm going to talk about today is actually it's a single universe, but it's a shared universe that's been pushed very heavily recently, and it's a universe at Image that I wasn't always a super fan of, but I found a corner of its universe that I liked, and it's strange to me. But Todd McFarlane's been pushing very heavily the shared Spawn universe over the last year and a half. That if you've gone to a comic book store and stared at a shelf, you've either seen it's like, why does it look like there's 20 different Spawn titles? It's because there are. And that was something that Todd had been working on of, hey, there's other stories I can tell in this universe. Um, And to be honest, I was so naive of myself in that whole thing that a book I'd been reading, I was like, oh, that is a Spawn story. Um, and Hector might be doing now, which book was that? Um, and you'll figure it out when I get there because it actually took them putting it on the cover of the book for me to go, oh, yeah. And it makes me wonder if that's why they started doing it because I wonder if some readers just missed it. So saving it for the podcast later on. Um, I'll talk a little bit about that, but Image is like doing comic books again, and not just like the one off that everybody runs and's like, hey, that's cool because Image does weird stuff. And I'm not going to apologize for Ghost Machine being a pretty common topic lately because they're doing some neat stuff. And I like it when that happens.
That is good.
Um, yeah, I like it when comic books do comic book things. And by that, I don't mean 47 different variant covers, but eh. Was there any other news that you kind of, I think we talked about some stuff before. Is there anything that the people should know?
I think we that was the bulk of
I know
it.
there's a lot of shows that are hitting or there's multimedia content that's like,
Yeah, the Spider Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is dropping. That'll be the first MCU property of 2025. Um, Creature Commandos drops December 5th. That's a bit in the comic-ish world.
yeah.
Um, Zatanna is going to get an ongoing series.
Ooh, I'm here
Uh,
for that. I feel like that's an underappreciated character, at least lately.
they just did the 4 book
Yep.
arc of Brings the House Down. She's going to get another 6 issue thing, and I saw that Magic, like Colossus's sister, is getting her first ongoing series. So some love there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. Well, that's what you need to know. That's our biweekly look at the industry and delivering you the inside knowledge. As always, you can join in on the conversation with Hector and I and all of your other nerdy friends over on the Love Thy Nerd Discord and begin your weekly geeky adventure with us. Tell us what you liked, what you hated, and possibly even what we missed, because I guarantee we probably missed some things. But we love the talks about the things that we talk about here with all of y'all. So don't miss out on being together in community on the internet because we don't have that travel budget yet. Working on it. All right, my man.
Unless we have a castle, then we can all go there.
We can all go there. All right. Let's talk about the comicses. My precious. You want to start this party for us?
I guess so.
And if you start at the top of your list, it actually won't be a DC book.
Okay, for the record, let me say this. The majority of what I read this week was not DC. The
Actually,
majority,
that's
like
true. In my case,
not
too.
just the stuff that's in my pools.
Mm-hmm.
This week I read Space Ghost #7, Moondogs, uh, and those were not DC. I read all three of the first three of Avengers Assemble,
And none of them made it on the list.
and not a single one even made it in my appreciation. Um, I was angry at my time spent, let alone my $14. Uh,
I would
Daredevil,
apologize for the people, but literally had this conversation at the comic book store today of Marvel, I want you to take my money and you just can't do it. And it's kind of depressing.
I read Daredevil, which is also not DC. It didn't make my pool, but it was close
Mm,
making my pools.
honorable
Um,
mention then.
Honorable mention, but it was close. So yeah. All right, my first pull, well, let's go with Uncanny X-Men #5.
That's a
Um,
Marvel book.
that's a Marvel book. Why this is important? It's because Gambit starts using Pokemon cards instead of playing cards. It's an actual panel.
Like on brand, not like this is a poke. Like,
It's
yeah, you're going to have to open the book now.
he doesn't
Now I
call
need you
them
to.
Pokemon because he's in Muggle, but it's, I smell him. There's 104 maybe. Forgive this. Three of them got the same STD, and this is Wolverine. Just this is Gail Simone and Wolverine, or Wolverine and Gail Simone's
Yeah,
hands. He's
yeah.
like, he says, "Well, now that's real helpful, Logan, my friend." He says, "Hope you got an extra deck of cards, Gambit." and he pulls out a long box of cards and says, "Well, I done had to think about that. Marcus, little girl Chelsea, she got a whole murder of them cards with them cartoon monsters on them." And he pulls out an entire long box of Pokemon. And then the kids and the lower thingers like, "Do we tell them they're valuable collectible cards?" He's like, "Nah, let it go." So Gambit starts playing with Pokemon.
He said, I choose you, Flick.
Yeah, so he's exploding people's um with pocket monsters. So
Oh, Gail, you will forever always be one of my favorites.
and so that alone was great. Um but the first issue of this book features a the X team basically doing a make a wish type situation. And that make a wish kid turned out to be uh a very powerful mutant. He just didn't want to tell anybody. And so he basically saves their lives.
Aw.
In a very Gail Simone way. Um this is a very rogue centric, rogue heavy story. It
And
was good.
she said on Twitter, even while she was announcing all this, she alluded to Rogue was gonna get the love.
She gets love and she gets in interesting ways. And previous issues of this story run were a bit projective on the douchiness of Charles Xavier's existence, and some of that is cleaned up in this, but still not as much. But it gave you a villain that was monstrous, very, here's an army of undead and some unwitting teenagers. Um, it was good. There was one line that I did like on Nightcrawler and his character in Gale's hands. Um, what was it? Because I'm always paying attention to what you do with Nightcrawler. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one of the dudes says, "Hey, normally don't you use like a pirate sword or something?" And he says, "I'm
Uh,
not." And Nightcrawler says, "I'm not a killer, Ransom. I thought I was. I was wrong."
mm.
So yeah, there you go. X-Men number 5. This 5 issues deep into Gail Simone's territory, and I can say this pretty easily. This has been the most consistent enjoyment I've got out of a linear X-Men book in a long time. Now, this is the only X-Men book I'm reading consistently. Now, let me take that back. The Uncanny Spider-Man, dope. Miles as or sorry, Nightcrawler as a spider, that was dope. But again, that's kind of a hybrid situation. Um, also 5 issues, so we're kind of tied at this point. So there you go. What about you?
So I mentioned a book that I've had on and off for the last couple of weeks that is a Spawn Universe title and that I totally muggled on myself was Sam and Twitch, which was the the gritty police procedural detective book um, that I mentioned. I've read it since like it's 8 issues. This arc is ending. I'm not sure if they're going to continue to pick it up. But they have been buried in the Spawn universe and everything, but it's purely focused upon the two of them as detectives and everything. And they told a pretty wild, very gritty, like this is an adult story. Um, it is graphic, and for those of you that heard Spawn universe story, already knew that. Um, but they wrapped up this 8 issue arc pretty much in a nice little bow. And I was like, I would keep reading because they also refer to it as the Sam and Twitch case files, which tells me if they want to basically visit cases with these detectives and do the whole procedural thing every now and then when they feel like it, they've got the space to do it. And I'm here for that party because it was good. Um, like a lot of the true crimey type books are out there now, and you've seen some of the return to like true pulp. Um, what was it? Oh, it's one of the books is called like Gun Honey, and like there's like yeah, you're a lot of your stores are probably not carrying it, but there are books that were designed after like the 50s, like actual pulp gritty crime noir, same graphic style and stuff. This isn't quite that, but there are people that are like going back towards that content. Um, so I think it's kind of fun to see some of that. And that was another thing that came up today is there's actually a lot of that kind of stuff. The pulpy era of comics seems to be making a comeback right now because there's a lot like Creepshow is back,
Yeah.
Epitaph is back, like all that kind of like creepy weird pulp stuff is slowly making its way back into the mainstream of your comic book shelves. And that's where a lot of like the genre and we've said before, comic books is a very inherently American based media platform and experience. So we're seeing some of those things from the last, well, 80 to 100 years like actually come back. And to me, that's just cool because that shows the power of the medium and it's not going away. And like we talked about, I think it was last episode or episode before, there's people that are like, oh, physical comic books are dying, the stores are dying, but the data doesn't show that. There are some stores that are suffering, and because business in general is hard, but the buy through but from all y'all and nerds like us, um, we're keeping the medium alive. So keep reading.
Well, that's the thing. Like digital comics has failed to take over.
Mm-hmm.
As much as
No,
that's been a like, oh no, digital comics, they're gonna take. No, that hasn't worked.
nope. Uh, as far back as 8, even 10 years ago, we were starting to have the conversation where like I sat at Comics Pro meetings where DC and Marvel like this is gonna we're leaning into it because it's going to take over market share. And then like the next year they'd be like, yeah, we're still below 5% market share in our purely digital platforms. And it dropped as time went on because like have you heard the word comicsology in the last year? Probably not. I think Amazon might have even officially killed it, if I recall.
It killed it. It absorbed it.
Yeah, they were like, yep, it's just an Amazon thing now. Um, the digital platforms at Marvel and DC exist. I do know folks that use them, but in terms of it being significant market share, nope.
No.
Um, and I think it's because we've had the conversation once or twice before of part of this is the physical touch, open, smell the comic book. Um, it's just part of the experience. So, yay, comics. What's your next one? What you got?
Um. Well, let's go with Absolute Batman number two.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm.
Um, this was solid.
It's
Still,
absolute.
yeah, it's that. It's still continuing on pretty well with I will say out of the three Absolute books I've read, this one is still the best one.
Yep.
But it's also
Agreed.
not surprising that Batman's the better out of the three. Superman was kind of a letdown for me. Wonder Woman was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is full of enough unique twists and turns on the lore and the relationships that it makes stuff interesting. Like this is like I don't know, it feels like new storytelling in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not 100% predictable. So if you're giving me a Batman book I'm actually enthralled in from beginning to end, good job. You nailed it. And I feel like that's what they're accomplishing pretty solidly through this.
Yeah, and with DC kind of like with this navigation of kind of it's not a reset, it's just the current iteration of moving the river that is the multiverse at DC Comics, that the fact that Absolute sits that the Absolute series, Absolute Power, all in general, they got a lot going on simultaneously as they kind of navigate the new river of the DC universe and the multiverse in general. So giving them some credit in what is a fairly typical adventure in comic books, especially from the big two of either resetting, realigning, doing continuity adjustments, etc. That Rebirth was really well executed. Um,
Yes.
that as DC attempts to do things in the future, like a lot of us are going to look at it through that lens. Other people are going to try to look at it through the New 52 lens, which has mixed results. Um,
New 52 was still solid.
it ended up being really good. It's where I jumped back in the comics, so like no lies. But um, as I was kind of staring at the shelf and going, I'm probably not going to spend money on Absolute Power, but I see you. But the Absolute series in and of itself, yeah, it's fun, it's interesting, but yeah, Batman is definitely agreed that is the book that kind of stands out at the moment. We loves it.
What about you?
Let's see. Man, all my books are creepy this week. That's weird. Um, Where Monsters Lie. Cul-de-sac is still my super weird, murdery. All of the murderers book continues to be really, really weird with this whole concept of all the
Is that the
serial.
cul-de-sac book?
Yes,
Okay.
because cul-de-sac is the second arc in the Where Monsters Lie series of we're now being introduced to even more and more serial killers or foils of serial killers from movies over the decades and everything. And we kind of have the cabin in the woods thing going on of that they all chilling in their super secret sciencey location at the moment, but they all basically still are trying to kill each other, which is not where the book started. It has devolved into a little bit of chaos in this week that I'm still on board for where you started here, but if they don't put this one back on the tracks next time, it might not remain on my list. Because the concept is still interesting, but one of the main characters that is tying this whole thing together, his family was killed by a bunch of serial killers, became an FBI agent to hunt serial killers, and then got embedded with them, wasn't even in this book, really, uh, this week. And I was like, I feel like you might lose the thread here, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because it's still kind of a pretty wacky, off the wall thing. And I guess all of America just wants nothing but stabby movies and content nowadays. So they leaned in pretty hard and got it. But if you're into that, these books are fun because you get to spend part of that going, what license did they not obtain for all of these characters? And some of them are pretty obvious, and some of them are like, that's new. So I don't know. It it's weird, but I guess it remains weird in at least a somewhat interesting way. So if that's the jam for a lot of you, you're welcome. I'm continuing to provide you outlets for your depravity. You. And then my last two books are oddly related, and we'll have a conversation about that here in a second
Okay.
because it's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm trying to figure out why this particular trend hits in the same week.
Well, that is true.
Right?
All right. My turn.
Yes, sir.
All right. Wonder Woman 15. It's been Tom King doing his thing. It's been a good run. Um, Now that we're done with tie-ins, we're actually getting uh
Back on the breaking our feels.
yeah, and this gives us a solid thing of where each of Diana's cohorts are giving us their own mission to go out and try and break a layer, I guess, of the sovereign's regime and everything else. So you get to see the varying portions. Uh, I think my favorite was watching Yara Flor rob a bank and Donna Troy gut Solomon Grundy um, while having a conversation with him. But and I say this with no shade. It was good. I'm enjoying the Wonder Woman experience on this, but I'm kind of at the point in a Tom King story
Hmm.
where this would have been nice if it could have wrapped up in 12 issues. But all the
Yeah,
time,
because I'm a little behind on Wonder Woman right now, and when you said the Sovereign is still part of it, it made me go, "All right, get to the point, bro."
well, and that's the thing, he's had to deal with almost 6 issues of tie-ins
That's fair because of everything that's happening right now. That it's a little distracting.
because there was the shopping mall one, there was 2 issues of Absolute Power that completely derailed the story, and there was one somewhere like where the animal stuff was. So we're at like this dude's only got to tell like 8 solid stories with this book as opposed to getting to tell the full 12. So when I compile this, I'll weed out the ones that don't belong. Um,
One of
but
these things, it's not like the other.
past that, it's good. Um, but I am ready for it to finish off because I enjoyed things like Human Target that could be consistent and not have to deal with other stuff.
Tom King does do really well when it's a 12-part mini, doing the thing, getting to the point,
Yeah.
messing with your brain and emotions, making you feel things.
All right, go for it.
All right. So, um, you mentioned one of the books earlier, and it's mostly because I was digging at the bottom of that pile. Um, but Moondogs.
And I got a different cover than you.
Oh, cute. Um, so yeah, this week and last week's theme apparently is werewolves. This will make sense in a couple minutes. Um, I didn't expect a werewolf book in week 3 of November, but it's Image, so everything goes. I don't really know how to lay this one out except that werewolves in Miami.
With Latino
Yep.
heritage.
And it's a definitely modern approach on werewolves and all that. So that was mostly my thing of the art's really it's different. And I think this is a different in a good way type thing because I've said the thing of art can pull me out of a book, but this is kind of just it's not hyper real, but it's also kind of very comic booky. Um, and I'm here for that party.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that threw me off a little bit is um, I think there's going to be other monster stuff, but this is part of what they're calling the Horizon experiment. Um, and the reason it is an experiment because what normally is on the last page of a comic book?
Preview or whatever. This one
Yeah,
says the
close.
end.
Correct. So usually it says to be continued, like most books actually say to be continued or continues in or whatever. And whenever you see the word end, it usually means fin.
Yeah.
Um, so this is at the least at the moment a one shot, and there's a series of other Horizon books, but they're all monstery based type things. So I'm wondering if this is truly a feel out to be like, hey, which one or will all of these continue on in? And it's a thicker book. It is not a standard 32. It's probably a 64. Taking a look at it, so it's a little more chonky. Um, so and it's the price of a regular book. Go an image on that one. That's a 3.99 book.
You could definitely tell it's like, let's test the waters, let's see how this goes. But we're also not trying to milk you for it.
Right. And I appreciate when comic companies are like, hey, here's the thing. It's cool. You're
Wh-
welcome.
Which is what I feel like my other book is. Um, that's obviously not it. This one they're planning to go 5 issues with it. Um, I'm sorry. Was it cool for me to go ahead? I'm just running
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no, you're good.
Um, the next one is a book called You Never Heard of Me. Did you see this one?
I didn't.
Okay. So You Never Heard of Me is really
Indeed.
Yeah, you did. He's like, you're actually correct. I have never heard of you.
That is
Uh,
that is that is accurate.
um, basically, picture. Did you watch Encanto?
No, not yet, actually.
You should watch Encanto. It'll speak to your soul. Um,
Oh,
but basically, this is a young African American family, where a grandmother has long had the ability to see into other people's lives and see what's wrong and guide them.
okay.
Um,
I know enough
and
about the concept to see where you're making the connection there.
right. And so, uh, like the whole family knows this is something that's passed down, uh, week to week or generation to generation. And so grandma's on her deathbed, the dad's preparing to take on the gift, and he's trying to almost plan ahead on how he's going to use it so he can better help his family and all this stuff. And the teenager that's the focal point of the story is like, pre-mourning his grandma and all this other stuff. And then lo and behold, uh the gift skips the dad and goes to the teenager, and the teenager ends up in a almost unbreakable style scene of he's in high school, and every kid that bumps past him, he sees the full breadth of their life and
Hmm.
what's wrong and how he's supposed to help them. Um, and he goes to tell his dad what happened, and his dad is like beside himself with feeling like a failure because he couldn't get the gift. And so he doesn't even tell his dad. And so he's just kind of keeping the secret of himself while he tries to do this. Um, it was well written. It was smart. I didn't feel played down to or like they didn't give enough effort. So I would probably pick up the rest of this. And they tell you from out the gate it's one of five. And I'll tell you what, I can appreciate that when you tell me you're only going to charge me $5. So
Right. Yeah, it's if the first one gets checks you in, then all right, cool, let's go.
yeah, I can give a lot of grace for I know something's limited. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so that's my last normal one, and then there we go. We've got our number ones.
Um, so like I said, I don't know why it's a thing, but Batman Full Moon, where Batman's a werewolf. What? Um, I I don't know. I guess everybody in comic book world was like, let's do some werewolf stuff almost a month after Halloween. Um, but this is a Black Label book. It's the second issue. I think they've been weekly. Um, so that's been a big part of all that. And it's pretty. The art is pretty awesome in this book. It's got a lot of extended DC characters. Like this week, you get a visit from everybody's favorite John Constantine. And Zatanna's been in this book as well. And it's basically instead of the Man Bat philosophy, Langstrom is talked about kind of a lot here, but instead of bat, it's wolf. Um, Super original, I don't know, but as a Black Label book that's kind of super gritty in the Batman world and is pulling in some of the fun characters like Constantine and Zatanna side by side is kind of a fun look. Um, it's just been a wild ride. I don't know if I'd say it's like super great writing, but it's at least pulp and kind of out there enough for me that I'm like, okay, I'm here for the art. And towards the end of this book, you literally get Batman calling Alfred like, it's happening, and Wolf like busts out of the cowl, and you're like, huh, that sucks. The moon came up. um, so I'll probably keep picking up a couple more just so I can kind of see towards the end of it you gonna go somewhere, or was this literally for that moment right there? And hey, look, John's here. Um,
Yeah,
because
John's been in too many of my books lately for me to be excited about his presence.
And I think that's probably the issue is a lot of people are like, "Ooh, Constantine," but it's like, yeah, but if you throw him in everything and he's not well written, then you're gonna ruin it for the rest of us. Um, because Constantine was not in a lot of stuff for a very long time. So when he showed up, people are like, "Oh boy, it's back 2 days." And so like Hellblazer, the return in the last couple of years was okay, but yeah, if kind of agree if he's everywhere, you're gonna be like, "Oh, John's here again."
Hmm.
He's just gonna say some things that sound ornery and upset and angry, and then he's gonna smoke a lot. Pretty much, yeah. It's Constantine.
That's the vibe.
That's that is 110% the vibe that Constantine is laying down for us. He's been regressed only to an angry smoking. Um, oh well, poor John.
At least he's not vaping.
Oh no, if they pull Constantine all the way forward and he starts vaping, I might have to be out like entirely.
Like that's the podcast that just killed everything. We don't read comics anymore.
Right? It's yeah. Nope, sorry. Mm-mm. John
Uh,
Constantine's now vaping.
it's his all of his spells smell like a self-righteous cloud of cotton candy
He just tells people, "Hmm."
as he puffs on his thumb drive.
Right? Demons show up and they're just like, no,
Never
can't take
mind.
you, can't take you serious, bro. All right.
What I would accept is Dark Side with a mother box vape.
That is more the vibe. I am here to crush your realities.
Dark Side is mango pineapple.
That's truly frightening.
A Gen Z Dark Side.
Oh no.
I'm looking for the skibbity life equation
No. Oh, we've ruined the fourth world for everyone now. Some of you
Orion
don't even
is
know why.
Orion is so Sigma
Some of you are laughing right now, and the rest of you are like, "Why is this funny?" And I'm sorry, that's the magic of podcasts and
because you don't have
comics.
14-year-olds or are
Mhm.
around Gen Z a lot.
Oh, come on, let's be
Oh,
completely honest that at least half of the folks probably are not into like the new gods and everything in general, but
yeah,
which I was thrilled to see that we should be getting, if not already, some of that is in. I don't think it's absolute. I think it's in all in that they are revisiting some of that stuff. So
yeah.
like pulling JSA forward, they're gonna pull new gods and some other stuff forward. So skivvy.
I hear skibbity toilet once a day at least in my house.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
You
Me too.
okay? Do you need to talk about it?
No, I don't. This was it. That just happened.
That was it. That was it. All right.
Hmm.
Send all complaints to Hector at because half of you also, if you don't know what that is, probably tried to Google it, and I'm sorry, not sorry. That's now in your vocabulary, and you have to deal with it for the rest of the day. You're welcome. So we're sharing a number one apparently against Hector's will, but I was purely out of books again, and I literally saw this on the shelf, and even before I read it, went, "This is going to be on Hector's list." Um, for all of the reasons. So I'm going to let you set this one up. Um, because it's your jam.
It is my jam, and it wasn't the worst.
No, and that's one of the things that I've at least been happy with all in so far is at least the number ones are making me go, okay, you didn't ruin this, which is usually a good sign. That and the art's good.
The art is good. So effectively, with
Ooh, I
all the
like
stuff.
your cover better.
Me too. Me
I'll
too.
share mine.
Is it the white one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is
See,
still very classic. Very classic. Aha.
yeah, they just put
It's
another
mine.
cover on it.
Oh,
Um,
mine's not cool like that.
yeah. So,
Aw.
after the events of Absolute Power and some of the people's powers got jostled around and they turned it into the Justice League Unlimited, they basically need a sheriff for the Watchtower because
Hmm.
mysteries are happening on the Watchtower, and you've got heroes who are not
You
all
mean
together.
all along the Watchtower?
Yes, all along the Watchtower. Um, where Renee at one point actually says, "Well, who's watching us?" Yeah, I mean it's just like, you know,
Uh-oh.
I would have gotten this just for the Bob Dylan reference.
Yeah.
But I would have also gotten it just for the question, so it's a mandatory pull for me.
Yep.
But effectively, Superman or no, Batman and Superman show up to Renee Montoya's apartment, and in true 52 era, Renee is once again down on her
Mhm.
luck, and her life is falling apart. Because Vandal Savage took her job as police commissioner, which is redonkulous, and she is asked by Batman and Superman to become the new uh internal affairs sheriff of
The Watchtower.
the Watchtower, assisted by the two Blue Beetles,
Yep.
and chaos ensues. And she's dressing like she's a cowboy with a Phantom Zone shotgun.
Yes.
So there's that. That's
I
that's
d
that's everything I got.
It's a super fun character design though. I mean, it leans into the previous era, but still is
The
great.
Watchmen references are heavy. There's even a
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
even
look.
a
Hey, look, it's Sean Constantine. Not vaping.
there's that. You also get um what's Ozymandias's cat?
Oh, yeah.
Um Something Boobastis, whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah, don't make me say words,
Um,
especially
either
ones I'm gonna say wrong.
either
But
way, there's a cat that looks strikingly like Ozymandias's cat from Watchmen that in the back of this thing. So this could also, I mean, it would not be surprise me if the Watchmen show up as part of this, especially with the title.
especially, yeah, and the reference in general. There you go.
But yeah, there's a even if that's not his cat, it's they're definitely playing.
There's a vibe there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a strong vibe. So yeah, it's good. It was a good first issue. I would definitely keep reading it. I don't remember if this was a limited series. Um,
Um, I feel like this is gonna play out a lot like Rebirth in that it's going to depend on how people buy it. That I'm sure there is probably a first arc that it could survive on its own in the hopper, but that was kind of one of the things with Rebirth is, hey, here's all these new things. There are new jumping on points of things that you have seen, known, love, etc. in the DC universe. And some of those, if they sold through and they played, well, they stuck around. So I would not be surprised if that's still part of the playbook because that worked during Rebirth. Um, that people started like Green Arrow got picked back up pretty consistently early in Rebirth. And they ran that horse until it just ran out of gas. Um, so I would not be shocked if that's the to market strategy here as well, because fanboys gonna pick up all the stuffs until it makes you go ooh.
and
And
good.
no, that was kind of the thought process there.
You remember how we've been talking about how Transformers have been outperforming everything?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's just in. Absolute Batman #1 has now outsold all of it. Absolute Batman #1 is the highest selling comic book of 2024, with just issue #1 selling 4 million copies.
That is a redonkulous number in current comic books.
Yes.
Um, because to put that back in perspective, a good sell through on a #1 lately has been 200,000 plus. Back in the day, for 4 mil to 8 mil, like 90s release, like New 52 era, yes.
Now,
Uh,
what
last
I'm
decade or so, no,
the
no.
story that this is being reported from uh is saying people are saying that these numbers are wrong, but it's looking actually 400,000. Somebody misprinted it and ran with it.
Still,
400,000 is
100,000 is about double a typical new book right
yeah.
now. Actually, I was going to try to see because what is it? The chrono.
Yeah, CBR corrected it because somebody else just didn't know how to
They went,
zeros.
that's not how that works. Uh, if I find it before I'm done, then yeah, that'll do. Monthly sales. There's a website for that. And
All
this
right.
comes back to some of that conversation we had in the last thing of this is one of those things that's not well tracked. Um, hmm, it must be coming out soon because what's being tracked by Comic-Con, which is kind of uses a consolidation of other things. It's not even in the top 25 for this month, so it's probably a lagging indicator.
Yeah. Yeah, but whoever made this graphic for the 4 million just doesn't know how to math. But CBR does
Math,
have it.
math is hard.
CBR does have it coming in at 400,000. So either way, it's not dead.
Oh, right. That's the other thing is when all these companies went independent, it took the tracking kind of got all. This is why good data in comic books. This is literally the argument that if we had better data in comic books, it'd be easier for comic book stores to really know what's actually going on and make smart decisions across the board. But yeah, no, 400,000 is a lot of comics. Even yeah, 4 million is like holy wow. But
Yeah, I was like, hold on. Don't we normally run like 200,000 for a good success? This doesn't sound right.
for a solid book, yes, like an average release for a lot of books nowadays is 50.
I'm pretty sure 4 million was the death of Superman. And that's the rest.
I bet you that book was actually more than that because that's why literally every time a Death of Superman walks into a comic book store and someone's like, "It's still in the bag,"
Nobody
people
cares, bro.
audibly laughs at the person, and the
I've
person's
I've
like,
seen this
"Oh."
happen. I've seen this happen.
And it's really hard not to because customer service and everything. You want to be like, "Oh, we know that that comic's important to you and everything," but you and like literally a couple million of your friends.
Want to know a fun comic shop interaction I had when I was picking these books up this week?
Let's do it. This is a good way for us to wrap up our comic book discussions.
I was picking up my books and I got in line and the dude checking me guy out said, "Oh, the guy who wrote that's right behind you." And like the dude in front of me was buying a Faith and Fandom with his comics off the shelf at my comic book shop. And he's like, "A what?" And then it turned into a whole conversation and then one of the um new employee peoples was like, "Yeah, he's yeah,
Yeah,
blah
that's
blah,
him.
blah." Yeah. I was like, "Hi, weird.
Death
Thanks."
of Superman is credited with 6 million copies.
There you go. Okay. So we're not there yet.
Yeah. Nope, got a little ways to go. If we're gonna hit if those are rookie numbers, gonna have to pump them up.
You know what would probably
Um
help if the bat symbol was bigger.
the
That
chunky bat.
that could help. That could help. Um, with his Max style poses, because almost every pose he does is like the Max.
Mm.
Um, I just
Man,
picture
we have given some of our faithful listeners some things to go Googles if they don't know what we're talking about.
I just picture Bruce going, "Julie."
Oh, some of you are gonna look up the max and be like, why?
Yep, because it was on
Sorry, not
MTV.
sorry.
Because it was
Yeah, it
on
was
MTV with Adult Swim. No, that was not Adult Swim.
nope
What was that
prior.
called? What was um
It was 1995.
Liquid Television.
There you go. That
Yeah.
that that makes more sense.
Yeah.
It is available on Prime Video. You're welcome.
All right.
Don't go watch that.
The Max was delightful. Sort of.
Sort of. For the 90s.
Yes.
Sorry, not sorry. Oh, the complete series. It was just 95 to 96. Yep. Oh, there you go. That's your freebie as we wrap up 110 episodes of the Polis podcast in whatever millionth season we're in now.
Hmm.
So we will be going on our little holiday sabbatical here in the not too distant future. We'll let everyone know when we are returning to continue to talk about all of the wonderful comic book things that, well, we think you should know about. We're professionals, so Hector's like, no, we're
Oh,
just we're just here talking about
when is
comics.
this airing? This is airing what?
A couple days from now.
Yeah. Um, Flockward, my comic book will be free on Amazon Kindle Black Friday through Sunday, December 1st.
This will air in time for that to
There's
be
there's
out there.
there's going to be 8 Faith and Fandom books for free on Kindle. 5, 6, 7, 8 junior bite size. Can I still wear my cape and Flockward? You can get on Amazon Kindle for free. So if you want to get a comic book, you can get it for free. Merry
I'd
Christmas.
s- I'd say not a sponsor, but it kind of actually is. So
So yeah,
there you go.
free stuff.
Hector
Merry Christmas.
Hec Hector does stuff and he's giving it away just for you for
Um,
Christmas, for the holidays. Any parting thoughts before we allow the people to enjoy their holiday break?
um,
Hector's like, I was not prepared.
no, that's about all I had. Um, you know what? No. Merry Christmas, guys. Hope you have a good
Yeah,
year. Thank you again to Todd Turner for filling in for uh
absolutely.
season and holding it down for us. And yeah, dude, that's about it. Thanks for not dying as a police officer so far. Um,
For the record, Chris has only worked 2 shifts since the thing worked, but yeah, 2 days down. Woo! Uh, so the new
2 days
experience
down,
is
2 days down, and 50 individual units of methamphetamines off the streets.
we've done it, fam.
I solved crime. Huzzah!
I solved a crime, singular, but good times. We are thankful for all of you. So, yep, that is going to do it for us here at the Polis Podcast, episode 110. That means for most of you, you have listened to us for 110 hours if you have listened to us since the beginning. And wow. Um, it's in the books, it's in your ears. You're able to watch us now on the YouTubes. Uh, it's awesome to be able to do this, but we can't possibly do it alone. We are part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network where we call home. You can catch a bunch of other shows, our past shows and everything at lovethynerd.com. Uh, all the things are there. Hector's there. He's got other shows. He talks about all of the things. So if you want to hear more of that wonderful voice on the other side of the screen from me, yeah, Hector's like, no, don't do it. But at the same time, go do it. He does good stuff. We're also on the Glue app, which is GLU. So if you want to see us on your televisions, you can download that app and search for Love Thy Nerd, and you'll find all of our content through your television screens and smart devices in that way. So as always, Hector and I do want to thank you for choosing us as your primary comic book knowledge factory on a near weekly basis. So don't leave us hanging. Rate, review the show on your podcasting app of choice. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Like I mentioned, we're over there on the YouTubes. Smash that like and subscribe. Or don't. That felt wrong.
Hmm.
Um,
Don't do that again.
don't do that. Not okay. Thanks for listening. Again, definitely thanks to Todd for carrying this season, being the number one hero that he is. Hector for constantly putting up with my schedule changes. Um, Hector's like, no. Um,
This is 2:30 on a Friday afternoon, family. What is this
Like I said, I've
shenanigans?
slept for an hour in the last 24 hours, but we're doing it. It's for
Yep.
the comics. Skibbity. Thanks. And I just ruined Hacker. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and all that good stuff. So remember, kids, read more
Read more
comics.
comics.
I'm gonna take all 7 continents as a game of risk.